appreciate your willingness, both of you, to serve and to be here. You both come with impressive qualifications, and I very much look forward to working to secure your confirmation. In each of your cases, you come with a strong set of recommendations and great professional experience to back that up. And both of you, as far as I can tell, come with a built-in understanding of the necessarily limited but indispensable role that our federal court system plays. There are a lot of misunderstandings about what the federal courts are. They are not there to adjudicate hot-button social disputes. They are not there to serve as representative bodies. They're there to decide discrete questions of law presented before them, where two or more parties disagree as to the meaning of the law and where the law needs to be enforced or in one way or another applied. But they're there in a sort of rear-view mirror capacity to decide what the law is, what the law says, what it said, and what the original understanding of those words were, based on the public meaning at the time of enactment if a statute or the time of ratification if a provision of the Constitution. Mr. Tung, let's start with you. As a federal judge, federal appellate court judge, if confirmed, which I very much hope you are, you'll be required to interpret the text of federal law across a broad range of topics, including provisions of the U.S. Code, including provisions of the Constitution. How will you approach this task? And what sort of judicial philosophy would you say guides your interpretive approach as a judge?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I would start, as instructed by the Supreme Court, I would start with the text of the statute that's being interpreted, or if we are interpreting a constitution, the particular provision of the Constitution. If the text does not yield a clear answer, I would move to the context or the structure of the statutory provision. That is, looking at the surrounding provisions that may shed light on the meaning of the provision under issue. Beyond the context, I would look to the history, what animated the passage or the enactment of the law. And precedents, of course, that bear on the meaning of the text would be consulted carefully as well. And I would also apply various statutory canons of interpretation if, again, the issue before me is a statute.
What role, if any, would legislative history play there? And by legislative history, I mean not sort of the sequence in which things were added, but rather more directly committee reports, floor statements by individual members, either on the Senate floor or in committee.
Senator, legislative history is not law. It didn't overcome the bicameralism requirements that are set forth in Article 1, Section 7 of our Constitution. I would, again, look to the text.
Now, speaking of Article 1, Section 7, there are two fundamental elements that have to be satisfied in order to make a new federal law or modify an existing federal law. Those steps are bicameral passage followed by presentment. You referred to those briefly a moment ago. In your view, what are the dangers of ignoring that? And to what degree do you think we've gotten a little too fast and loose with the way we approach Article 1, Section 7?
There's a grave danger in ignoring the bicameralism and presentment requirements as set forth in Article 1, Section 7. The founders designed the Constitution in a way that would give accountability to the people, ultimately. Our powers under the Constitution, the government's powers, are derived from the people. And so under Article 1 of our Constitution, the Congress was divided into two houses, so requiring both the House and the Senate to pass by a majority vote the bill that's being under consideration. Now, the president also needs to agree and sign and provide his approval in order for that law to become in the U.S. Code. So I believe that bicameralism requirement is extremely critical to our constitutional system.
The requirements of bicameralism and the requirements of bicameral passage followed by presentment of the president were deemed not to have been satisfied in INS v. Chadha, and on that basis, the legislative veto provision in that case, and ultimately in all other cases, were deemed unconstitutional as violative of Article 1, Section 7. If it is the case that you have to ring the legislative bell in order to make a new federal law or change an existing federal law, and if it is the case that that wasn't satisfied in INS v. Chadha, where the application of an existing provision of federal law was being changed or modified in that instance, in some cases by one chamber, in other cases by both, but without the added step of presentment to the president. Couldn't one also make the same argument that where the obligations imposed on members of the public by a federal statute or by a provision of federal law, let's say a federal regulation, where the obligations inherent in that affirmative command to the public aren't evident on the face of the underlying statute authorizing the promulgation of that reg, couldn't that arguably be said to violate Article 1, Section 7, just as the legislative veto was in INS v. Chadha?
Senator, it could arguably pose an issue under Article 1, Section 7. It also poses an issue under the non-delegation doctrine, which is derived from the vesting clauses of our Constitution. Article 1 says that all legislative powers granted herein are vested in the legislative branch, are vested in Congress. And so Congress can't delegate its lawmaking powers to an unelected federal agency to make laws. And so I believe it would pose a problem potentially under the bicameralism presentment provision, but also under the non-delegation principle.
Senator
Wonderful.
Padilla.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, I want to